The daily consumption of seed oils is the same amount of aldehydes if you smoke 25 cigarettes in that day.
That is shocking. That should shock you. That should honestly horrify you. Welcome back to Fasting, Food, and Faith. I'm Brianne Sims, RN.
I'm Dr. Sam Sims, nurse anesthesiologist.
And today,
we're going to talk about getting rid of your 2-pack-a-week seed oil habit. So everybody's like talks about seed oils, and they have a bad rap, and there's a reason why they have a bad rap. And some people really get contentious about this. So not all seed oils are bad. There are some good seed oils, and so we are going to address the whole issue.
the whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Are seed oils bad? Usually yes. Can they be good? There is a way that they can be good. It's just that you don't usually get to have them as a consumer that way. Let's start with canola oil. It's one of the most common oils we use in American cooking. It was originally called rapeseed. As you can imagine, they decided that that was not a very popular name that they should, use. It's very high in this erucic acid in its natural form. 40% of it was erucic acid, and that's very detrimental to people's health. So what they would do is they actually use the oil, and they would use it at industrial things. It actually wasn't consumed when it was originally produced. It was an industrial oil and listed as non-food use. And then in 1976, Canada, they were able to GMO modify the rapeseed to get to its erucic acid level of less than 2%. And they said, now we can feed it to people for food. And 39 years ago, the Food and Drug Administration said it was generally recognized as safe, or GRAS. 39 years ago is when they last looked at that. In 2006, they said about canola oil, limited and non-conclusive scientific evidence suggests that eating about 1.5 tablespoons of canola oil may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease due to the unsaturated fat content of canola oil. To achieve the possible benefits, canola oil is to replace a similar amount of saturated fat and not increase the total number of calories you eat a day. It could, possibly, may, and it's generally recognized as safe 39 years ago. So
I'm suspicious already.
Are you suspicious?
I'm suspicious.
Over 90% of canola oil is GMO. So if you don't like GMOs, there you go. Let's start with that part of it. They clean the seeds, they heat the seeds, they cook this, they get the stuff off the outer layer, they cook the seeds, they press the seeds, and then after they press the seeds, they haven't got maximum amount of oil out of it yet. So what they do is they add this chemical called hexane. And the hexane increases the extraction rate to where they get about 99% extraction rate of all the oil. And then you have to get rid of the hexane. And so to get rid of the hexane, what they do is they boil it. So they boil the hexane off, and then they process the oil. Canola oil is considered an ultra-processed food when it's manufactured this way. And ultra-processed foods have been linked to obesity. So we have an ultra-processed food and canola oil when it is done this way. And they found the hexane, which is actually damaging to your health, is actually still present when they test it. So that's fun. Yeah. There is another way to process canola oil and other oils. It's called cold pressing. When you cold press an oil, you don't add heat to it. Your yields are lower, but it's safer. And so they've then taken canola oil that's been cold pressed, and they've taken canola oil that has been gone through this process, and they find that the cold pressed oil has nutritional value. It still have nutrients that has nutritional value. But the other one that has gone through the hexane and boiling has no nutritional value.
Zero. In fact, it's unhealthy. It's detrimental to your health.
Right. So now we go from something that has nutritional value, so it could be healthy. If you get it cold pressed, it's very hard to find cold pressed canola oil, by the way.
I've never seen it, ever.
My
life.
I've seen it one time. You can order it from Canada. I've seen it one time in a grocery store, but it was in a clear bottle, which is also a problem. Okay? Because what happens when you heat oil? Oil with polyunsaturated fats, which canola oil has a fair amount of those turn into lipid oxidation particles, which can cause cancer and all kinds of other health problems, including Alzheimer's and hypertension, and there's all these other issues that can happen with these lipid oxidation particles. And then those break down into amaldehydes, like formaldehyde, which can also cause cancer.
Wow, that's terrible.
So that happens during the heating process. So if you took cold canola oil that never been processed,
cold pressed
canola oil, never been processed, and kept in a dark bottle, then that lipid oxidation process has not begun. And so all its nutrients, it could be healthy in that situation.
Right.
But it's almost impossible to find canola oil in that situation. once that process of oxidizing the polyunsaturated fat begins, it's nonstop. It's a nonstop cascade until the whole thing is oxidized. And that happens when something is also exposed to heat, happens immediately, or if they're exposed to ambient light with ambient temperature. So a clear bottle. A clear bottle of oil in your grocery store, stored at ambient temperature with ambient light, will start this process.
Right. The complete cascade of
The complete
turning
cascade,
into formaldehyde, which may
not necessarily formaldehyde. But formaldehyde is an example of an amaldehyde, but
of an amaldehyde.
yes, but it's
Okay.
but I just
Okay, well, turn completely into amaldehydes that can destroy your health.
Yeah.
And the whole cascade thing, like an object in motion stays in motion. Basically, once it starts,
Yes.
it keeps going. It's like a slinky going down the stairs. Once you start it, it's not going to stop.
Yeah, the other it doesn't have formaldehyde, but it has other aldehydes in it. Crochronolaldehyde, buraldehyde, whatever you heard of formaldehyde. So it's just easier to remember that. It's poison.
Okay.
It's poison.
It's a lot of poison. It's a lot of different kinds of aldehydes.
A lot of
Got
different
it.
aldehydes. And what
Okay.
those aldehydes do is they're genotoxic, which means they actually affect your DNA. And aldehydes cause damage in your skin, damage your cells, and they increase your aging. They make you age faster.
Just like cigarettes.
Yeah, just like cigarettes. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you brought that up.
I know, right? You were getting to that.
I was. So the daily consumption that we get of these aldehydes in our regular diet is the same amount of aldehydes we would get if we smoked 25 cigarettes. Now, there's other toxins in cigarettes, but the aldehydes...
There's other toxins in seed oils, too.
Yes.
But-
So because there's hexane.
Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah. So we get 25 cigarettes worth on the daily consumption of seed oils a day. The daily consumption of seed oils is the same amount of aldehydes if you smoke 25 cigarettes in that day.
That is shocking. That should shock you. That should honestly horrify you. It is really where that should be. That's a horrifying statistic.
Yep. Or that's fries. And so that can actually equal out, based on the average consumption, people don't necessarily eat them every day, but actually average out to about a 2-pack a week smoker. Just the average human consumption of seed oils.
Of French fries.
But if they actually...
any kind of fried
But if you're
food
actually eating
or
fries every
anything-
day, it's a pack a day.
Okay, but it's not just fries that are cooked in seed oils.
No,
Chicken strips are cooked in seed oils.
Yeah.
Onion rings. Everything in a fast food restaurant is cooked in seed oil.
So it's the repeated heating.
mean,
It's the repeated heating that causes this problem. And so, like, if you take a small bag of Doritos, the amount of seed oils that are in that, or the amount of aldehydes that would be in that, would be the same as 5 cigarettes.
A small bag of chips contains as much poison as 5 cigarettes.
Yes.
That's shocking.
And I'm sure it contains other things, but that's one.
I mean, because you would never feed your child a cigarette.
Not than 5 of them.
There's no nutritional value, and it destroys their health.
Yes. And it makes them age sooner, makes them sick, makes them increase risks of cancer. These things were supposed to be healthy for us. They're supposed to be how do we get to the point where they help? Oh, and a large order of fries has enough formaldehydes in it as 31 cigarettes. One large order. So how did we get that this is heart healthy?
I mean, I don't even know what to
Well,
say.
they took the cold oil,
It's just crazy.
the cold pressed oil, and that's what they researched.
They researched cold pressed oil, but does anyone in the United States actually eat cold pressed oil? Is it even available? No.
Yeah, you can you can buy it from Canada, and you can buy it in a bottle, and it's and one of them clear bottle, and one of them's dark bottles. But you can buy it, but it's really hard to find. You can search it.
Online, maybe.
You can find it online.
You're not going to find it in your grocery store.
No. And you can basically, here's how it works. You could basically cook with it once. But once
The cold pressed oil.
Cold pressed oil, you could basically cook cold pressed oil one time,
Right.
and it would be healthy. But
It'd
then
be
you need to throw
fine.
it out.
But then you have to throw it out. Because of
The lipid oxidation protocols that happens.
Because of
Here's
the
the other thing.
oxidation
This
process.
can happen with olive oil.
the oxidation process.
Yes, absolutely. So if you don't find cold pressed olive oil, it was probably processed in this way, and it's probably not healthy for you.
Right.
So it's not.
So olive oil is the same in that you have to buy it cold pressed, which is actually available, and you have to buy it in a dark bottle,
Yep.
which is actually available. So when you're choosing an oil, it matters. It matters what you choose.
And they recommend you don't cook with it because you basically only cook with olive oil one time.
Right. It's
'Cause-
not
'cause-
recommended
'cause
as
smoke point.
because the smoke point is so low as compared to other oils that are actually healthy for you that have a higher smoke point that don't
Right.
oxidize as quickly. So
Yep. And when you deep fry with these things over and over and over again, how often do they have to throw the oil out at the fast food restaurant? Like hardly ever.
yeah. And here's the thing: when they dispose of used oil at fast food restaurants, there's a special process that they have to go through because it is toxic. It's toxic sludge, and it has to be emptied into special vats, and they have to go to special trash places and everything. Like, so you're eating the food, but the waste product of eating the food is toxic, and there's regulations around its disposal. So maybe don't eat it in the first place.
Well, and then there's also a risk of just breathing it when you're cooking it.
I forgot about that because it gets in the air.
Yes, it's in the air.
Yeah.
So we went to the mall after we've been fasting for a long time. We went to the food court.
Walked by the food court area.
And you could just smell it, and it just smelled
It was
awful.
just like coating my skin, and like you could smell the
Poison.
particles in the air. You
Yes.
could smell the poison of the seed oils. It was terrible. But if you inhale that,
Yes.
like even people who are working at fast food restaurants, I worked at one when I was a teenager, it causes damage to your lungs, to your body, just inhaling
Right.
the seed oils.
So what we've done was we're saying saturated fats are bad. That's what we did. We did this American experiment. And there's this thing called the American paradox that basically is we said stop eating saturated fat, start eating vegetable oils, stop, sugar's fine. And our obesity epidemic has went through the roof. And our non-communicable diseases or diseases we can't catch from somebody else, non-contagious, have also
Basically, autoimmune disease.
and went through the roof.
Inflammatory
Abdominal
diseases.
obesity, hypertension, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, elevated triglycerides, type 2 diabetes, gout, heart disease, stroke, cancer, polycystic ovarian disease, and Alzheimer's disease. All these have gone up.
Through the roof.
Through the roof. And when they unlink, there's a study that they did where they unlinked the saturated fat. They unlinked it from animal sources and vegetable sources. And when they unlinked it, and they did it from the 1900s to 2019.
So a long study.
Huge study, massive study.
Massive.
And it was funded by the Epileptic Foundation, not the annual like Bacon Foundation, or the People's Butter Republic of West Virginia or something like that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was the actual just Epilepsy Foundation who support the keto diet. And
Okay.
they found basically when you unlink those, these problems don't actually get associated with butter. These problems don't actually get associated with lard. These problems actually get
These
associated.
problems don't occur if you eat saturated fat.
Yeah,
In its natural
form.
It's natural.
And they have further proven that when they look at a culture, they eat their native diet. Okay, so like Inuits eat a lot of saturated fat. Okay, but Chinese farmers don't. They actually eat a lot of high carbs, but they eat their natural. They don't eat almost any processed foods. And when
Basically zero.
basically everything they get is highly nutritious. And when people don't eat the Western diet,
Right.
they don't have these problems
Right. They eat nutritionally dense, naturally occurring foods.
just in their environment.
Yeah.
And so that's what it really comes down to eat the food that naturally occurs in your environment, and you will not have these issues. Even the elderly don't have these issues. But they do start showing up in those cultures when they start eating the Western diet. The American paradox. It was supposed to be so much healthier than us. So much healthier, and yet we're getting fatter and sicker.
Exponentially ever since seed oil, sugar, processed foods
Yes.
were introduced to replace natural whole foods.
Right.
I just want to take a moment to share with you that we have many resources available on our website, kingdomfasting.com. If you want to find out more about us, you can find all kinds of information there to help you on your fasting journey.
If you're sick of counting calories, go to our resources tab, and you'll find our shopping guide. And it will give you a list of whole foods you can buy and consume and not have to count calories anymore when you're not fasting. Right. So let's also talk about expeller pressed. There's a thing called expeller pressed oils.
Right.
And that would be a second tier. Like if you had no other choice, you could get expeller press. Expeller press just uses a machine, but it creates friction so that heat does begin. So expeller press is not as good as cold pressed.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't say cold pressed on it, I don't care what kind of oil it is. You should put it back.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because you've initiated this amaldehyde process that you could basically say if you went to your doctor and said, "I smoke 2 packs a week," he'd be like, "You need to stop doing that."
You need to stop doing that immediately for your
that's
health.
yeah. That you should
Those
stop.
cause cancer.
Yeah. You know how sick that is? And it's like, well, my kid only smokes 5 cigarettes a day. Isn't that okay? You're like, what is wrong with you? I mean, CPS will be showing up at your house. And you're like, what's just 5? I mean, bag of Doritos, 5 cigarettes? It's fine. Anybody, healthcare provider would be like, that is terrible. You should stop. Find stuff. So when we look at a package and it says these things on there, and sunflower oil is one of the worst.
I also want to point out, okay, you're ingesting these oils, you're breathing these oils, and you're also putting these oils on your skin if they're in your body care products. So
Cancer on your skin?
Don't. You got to read the ingredients on everything. They're putting seed oils in everything.
They do. And they put sunflower oil on top of dried fruit.
Yeah.
So it just looks prettier.
Which is just
This fruit
Like,
this
they
fruit is
also
pretty
put
and poisonous, and this one's ugly and healthy.
Okay, they also put it in seasonings.
Yes.
Like that you sprinkle on your food. Herbs. Why would they need sunflower oil? They put it on everything.
I guarantee you they're not putting the cold pressed stuff in that. That is more expensive.
No. And it doesn't say on there what kind. It just says sunflower oil.
It's an oat milk.
It just
I
says
understand.
sunflower oil.
So
It just says canola oil. Or they say and list like 3 different oils, and you're like, no, those are bad for you.
Yeah, corn, canola, or pick your poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. All bad.
It's a lot of nut milks, so you have to look for like healthier nut milks that don't have the extra
Don't
oils.
contain the seed oils. Yeah.
Now you can eat whatever you want. I'm just telling you this is what the research says. I don't suggest you do it. I understand. I go to the coffee shop and I have them put a little oat milk in my coffee every once in a while, or and just a little bit. I get it. I understand. It's kind of almost unavoidable to have it. It's like I have my coffee with my one cigarette. That's I guess what it is.
It's almost impossible to avoid seed oils completely in our country right now.
Yeah, it's very difficult. We
very, very
actively
difficult.
look at ingredients. Elmhurst is where we order our oat milk from.
Yeah.
But they have some they have an oat milk that is just unsweet, that is just oats, water, and salt. Perfect. That's what I like.
They do have a lot of nut milks if you have a dairy outlet.
And I would look at some of they do have some creamers and that kind of stuff, and so I would make sure, because I think some of those might have some seed oils in them. But that one is my favorite one, the best.
Because it has none.
Yeah.
Of the seed oils.
So there are some.
You could also do raw milk that.
You could also do.
That doesn't have seed oils.
Raw milk does not have seed oils in it. That is a true statement.
Yes. What should we be using instead of seed oils?
So what you want to do is you want to find oils that are heat friendly, and things that are heat friendly are low on polyunsaturated fats. Butter is very low on polyunsaturated fat, so that would be a good one. But it can burn. So ghee, lard and olive oil actually about have the same amount of polyunsaturated fats, but it has more saturated fats, so it's actually a little more protective in that aspect. Coconut oil has basically nothing as far as it's almost all saturated fat.
Yeah, it's very good for cooking at high heat. Coconut oil is.
Yeah, but they're kind of the same. It falls into the same thing. You can actually you want cold pressed coconut oil.
Yeah, you want cold pressed.
Because they can put hexene in and boil it and you'd have hexene in your coconut oil.
Which would be bad.
You want cold pressed, high heat oils, avocado oil. Again, you can go behind cold pressed avocado oil. Those have high heat. Butter, lard, ghee, beef tallow. All these things have actually duck fat. They used to fry McDonald's fries in beef tallow.
Yeah, they used to.
Yeah, and it used to be healthier. We weren't this sick. It's called the American paradox. I think it's kind of really interesting. It's like we did all these things. You are part of a failed experiment. If you've gained weight and you can't lose weight and you don't feel healthier and and they also found, here's the interesting thing. They actually found that people eat less calories now than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah, which is shocking. So it's not the calories, it's the
food.
quality of the food.
Yeah, and people can debate like, well, correlation versus causation, but if you take all these pieces and you start putting them together, it's like, can we agree that Americans are getting fatter and these diseases are increasing?
Yeah.
We can all agree to that.
Yeah.
Can we agree when we take the Western diet to a culture that's never had it, does it get worse and they start to see all these diseases? Yes, we can.
Yes.
So we can say it's the food. And then when they track the calories are less, and they say, well, we're eating less calories and we're getting fatter and sicker.
So why is that?
Yeah, and so one of the commentaries like, well, people aren't actually very accurate account of the calories. So that research versus the new research, I was like, well, if they're not accurate in both times. You know what I mean? They're not accurate back then, they're not accurate now. It doesn't really matter. They're basically saying we're eating similar amounts of calories, likely a little less, possibly a little more, but we're getting way sicker.
Looking at seed oils, you can see why.
You can see why.
It's quite shocking.
As the seed oils increase, so do all these problems. They start again, correlation versus causation, but if you start to see these things happening over and over and over again, you can start to say, a pattern is starting to emerge.
Yes.
And when we separate and bring it back to regular or naturally occurring fats, and we look at what naturally people are eating their native diets and they're not having these problems, we can say a native diet is healthy.
Yeah. God's food.
One ingredient, if you can look at it and know what's in it, there it is.
Yep. And I want to point out also when we say butter, we don't mean margarine. That is seed oils.
No, that's,
Margarine is not real food. That is highly processed and poisonous.
no,
So
ultra-processed foods are very unhealthy.
Yeah, you
So,
need.
so
We
basically,
mean real whole butter made from cream.
yeah, your Alzheimer's risk goes up once your processed food intake goes above 20%. And most people eat a processed food rate of around 60%.
More than half
Yes.
of people's diet is processed foods, which is why there's such a health epidemic.
Yes. So
And even
yes.
and children and teenagers eat even more processed foods than adults do,
Yeah. So
which is really sad.
ultra processed foods, most of these oils are ultra processed by the way they're made. So you should basically, if you don't like I think seed oils are fine, not really, but if you can find them cold pressed, they'd be okay. But ultra processed foods are not, and they are ultra processed. And they're GMO. And then I know some people are for GMO, some people are against GMO. So if you're against GMO, well, they're GMO. So there's no reason we're not to worry about it. If it's on your ingredient list, I guarantee you it's not the high quality oil. When they
Seed oils are good for your
when
heart.
they researched canola and said, hey, it's good for your heart, they used the cold press oils and did the research with those oils.
Yeah, but then they're selling everyone
Yeah.
not.
On something that's generally recognized as safe 39 years ago.
Those are the oils that people are actually buying and consuming.
Yep.
Which, okay, we have to talk about this. So we have a little free pantry that we manage and stuff. And so we put snacks in there for kids and like water bottles and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And we put some snacks in there and the ants got in there.
Yes, ants get in there one time. They do not get in there anymore.
Yeah. Well, anyways, ants got in there one time and they would not touch any processed foods. I think someone had put some candy.
We had candy in there, and there was granola bars right next to it. They chewed through the wrapper of the granola bar because it was oats and honey.
Yeah.
It was naturally occurring things. Any of the processed sugars, they didn't touch it at all.
Yeah. So even the animals, even the bugs know what real food is and what processed food is. They would need it.
They would need it. They would not eat the candy.
Yeah.
When they had the option to eat the oats and honey.
Shocking. So, yeah, the ants know better than we do. I just thought that was a really good example of, even God's creation knows what's real food and what's not. And we should too.
There you go. That's how you kick your 2-pack a week seed oil habit. Again, sum up. When you go look at oils, make sure they're cold pressed. Make sure they're in a dark bottle. Doesn't matter what kind they are. Cold pressed, dark bottle. Well, and here's the other thing: is you hear people talk about like my grandma. She was lived to be so much years old, and she ate bacon every day. It's like, yeah, and she didn't eat it, and she didn't eat any of the other stuff. It's like, yeah, that's why she lived. It's not because of the bacon. It's not because she didn't eat the other kind of crap.
Yeah, it's because she didn't eat the processed food.
Yep. She ate real food. Eat real food.
So yeah. So don't destroy your DNA.
Yeah. Don't look older.
Don't look older. And eat real food that God created, and you will live longer and look better and feel better. If you found this interesting and helpful, we'd love it if you share it with your family and friends. Go fast and be blessed.